All right. How's everybody doing? We are live. This is episode number 30 freaking 7 of Calibrated Live with Scott. I am Scott again. Here still Scott, the same as I ever was, same as I ever will be. We have some stuff to talk about. It's been rather slow. Yesterday I didn't feel the need to do a live stream. Wasn't a lot to talk about. Today we have some map updates, so we can talk about some stuff. Also, I just was curious. I think you guys have seen me with hair, right? But just so you know, I'm not ginger. I was just looking at myself, and damn, is this not the reddest beard I've? It's got I just shaved it again, and it came back in even more red this time. So, just on a personal note, I am not a gingerly kid. I wasn't a gingerly kid. I was blonde. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the map. All right. You guys know Ukraine. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Here is in the eastern part is where most of the fighting is going on. I'm going to start let's start with Ivanivske. Because Ivanivske, sorry guys, I'm getting a call. Just my mama. I'll call her back later. All right. So here in the Chasiv Yar area, just west of Bakhmut, I am going to actually correct this as I'm talking about this, but Ivanivske is under Russian control. It has been for a few days, so I am now going to move and adjust this map as needed. I'm going to talk about some stuff that is going on, though, while I do that. So with this advance, the Ukrainians lost part of their defensive line in between Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut. This was a very strong fortification. This fortification actually prevented the Ukrainians from getting pushed by Wagner during the 2023 Battle of Bakhmut about a year ago, in fact. It's almost April. Yeah, about a year ago. If you remember, Wagner was up on this corner right here, threatening this supply line. The last remaining supply line came through Ivanivske and into Bakhmut through this route. This high ground right here, this trench fortification, kept this battle going for a lot longer than I bet a lot of people would have expected. The Russians have now captured this high ground and this trench fortification, which allowed them to instantly basically expand out. That the reason why it was taking them so long to capture Ivanivske was because of that fortification. They had a horrible time, the Russians, making it into the center of town. They could push in through the south and reach up to about here along these roads, but the Ukrainians had a good line of sight. It's a good high ground, and they held Ivanivske for a good amount of time. But once the Russians got into that high ground, things started collapsing in multiple different directions. Hold on, let me just finish this up real fast. Doot. So many dots, and then you got to make it look pretty as well. All right. And then where is Ivanivske? Delete that. All right. So the map is now level there. With this advance, the Russians were also able to advance along this railroad. Again, I believe that most of this area will fall to the Russians pretty soon, and this front will level out, probably along this tree line, if I had to guess. And then the next operation for the Russians is to actually enter what I call the crow's nests. Obviously, a lot of high-rise residential buildings. It is separated by the canal from the rest of Chasiv Yar, so it is an isolated urban settlement, as well as Kalinina up here is also the next target. Basically, capturing the structure, I guess the urban areas across this canal, and then leveling the front out along the canal. So Avdiivka, Kalina, and what I consider the crow's nest here. Let's see. I hope everybody's doing good. Just scrolling through the comments here. What's up, Bubbles? Oh, hey, Tyler. Happy late birthday. Gay. That's gay. Don't be saying happy birthday to me. Yeah, if you guys don't know, I had my birthday on the 23rd. I didn't do a live stream that day because I was doing stuff. I didn't really even get to celebrate my birthday. My girlfriend's family was in town, so basically I've spent the last 6 days being a good boyfriend, and that really sucks. But thank you, Tyler. I appreciate your birthday wishes. I don't know if anybody else has siblings. This is kind of off topic, but my mom does this thing. I'm really good at remembering birthdays, so I remember everybody's birthday in the family, and I'm always the first one to call and stuff because I know it's important to people. I don't really care if people call me or text me, but my mom will always go and remind my siblings that she does it with me too, but I already have called or messaged whoever's birthday it is. She'll be like, remember, it's grandma's birthday. Remember, it's your dad's birthday, brother, sister's birthday, this, that, and the other. And this year I got 2 birthday wishes from my brother and my sister, one at 11:10 and one at 11:11, 2 minutes apart. And they live on different sides of the country. So it was very funny. I sent a message to my mom. I said, thank you for reminding my siblings of my birthday. Off topic, but anyway, back to what we were talking about. With this advance, Bogdanivka is now in a very difficult position for the Ukrainians. They have to keep it supplied, but remember, most of these settlements follow creek beds. This is no exception. This part is the high ground up here. This is the low ground, and then this is the high ground again. I'm actually going to take us over to the topographical map so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But yeah, so this is what we're looking at. And then the Russians are also going to try to push out onto this high ground right here. So I think that they have chosen Chasiv Yar to be the next fortress, I guess you could say, that they're going to try to push. It doesn't seem quite as defendable to me as Bakhmut. As soon as the Russians make it onto the high ground, which they are now doing, I believe the battle for Chasiv Yar is going to be much different than the battle for Bakhmut, the battle for Avdiivka. I think it's going to be a lot more skirmishy. And if you take a look at Chasiv Yar, it is very spread out. Chasiv Yar is not a huge town. I believe its pre-war population was 13,000 residents. So much smaller than Bakhmut, which was at 60. Much smaller than just much smaller than Avdiivka, which I believe sat at around 30,000. So about half the size of Bakhmut. Chasiv Yar is much smaller than that. Remember, this was the logistics hub for Bakhmut, which Bakhmut was a much more advantageous battle for the Ukrainians. The city is much wider, has a lot more depth and structure. Chasiv Yar is isolated, spread out. I have a feeling that the Russians are going to have a field day with this, capturing this high ground up here, this industrial waste area, as well as this industrial waste area down to the south. Will put Chasiv Yar into pincers, and then I just don't think the Ukrainians are going to be able to defend it, because if you look behind, there's not so much structure to actually run into Chasiv Yar. However, there are a significant number of roadways leading from Konstantinivka and Druskivka and Kramatorsk into Chasiv Yar. So we'll just see how this battle goes. But I believe with Russian glide bombs, aviation almost working with impunity directly over the front line now, we're going to see much quicker battles. And this town is not necessarily amazingly strategically advantageous for the Ukrainians to defend. I could be very wrong, considering this canal is here, but I don't think the canal is going to hold the Russians for very long once they reach the canal. All right. Now down to Avdiivka. We have some advances. If you guys remember, the Russians advanced just north of Berdichi. This pocket has now closed. I don't really think there were many Ukrainians in here. I think it was just kind of gray zone. The Russians have now moved in, and the defense of Berdichi has likely now been very compromised. This is all that really remains. This is going to be mostly gray zone. The Russians just haven't pushed into it because there's Ukrainian positions probably in this tree line, and then in this part of the town. Remember, the Ukrainians are trying to keep Semkivka at all costs. This is the end of the second line of defense behind Avdiivka. And if you guys remember, I've talked about it multiple times. The Ukrainians brought in a massive amount of manpower reserves. Some of their best, the 47th Mechanized Brigade, which had the Abrams and Bradleys, were brought into Berdichi. We have now seen 4 confirmed Abrams losses in Berdichi alone or around it. It's just, it doesn't appear that the Ukrainians have a very strong line of defense behind Avdiivka. We're getting reports that the Ukrainians have brought in even more reserves to this area in preparation for this line to collapse. They do not want the same thing that happened during the rout of Avdiivka to happen on the backside of this line, because this line is even weaker. So they have brought in a manpower surplus to try to overmatch the Russians' offensive capabilities and hopefully stem the tide of a breakthrough once that occurs. Again, down here on Tonenki, I talked about this last time, but you can see how once the line broke, right? Once Tonenki fell, once Orliivka fell, the whole front line started moving again. Here we can see that the Russians have actually crossed this dam, have entered, and have a foothold in the first houses of Semenkivka. Once the Russians capture the top and push down, this whole line of defense is going to crumble. There will be a Ukrainian retreat back to Umansk, and then the new defensive line, I actually saw it, is going to look something like this. Let's see if I can go down. Yeah, something like this. So Umansk is the next defense line, trying to hold the Russians from pushing into this side, and then up in the top, let's see. The defense is going to look something like this. And they're going to try to bring it down right there. I don't know how well that's going to work. Again, it doesn't appear that the Ukrainians have much faith in this line with how vigorously they're defending this line and the number of reserves they have brought in just in case this line falls. So Russians are advancing here, as well as in Chasiv Yar. There are now 2 fires that the Ukrainians need to put out. Down to the third and final fire that we have here, Novomykhailivka. The Russians have made some pretty significant advances, capturing the entire industrial area as well as the northern central part of the village. They have also advanced out of this southern industrial area onto the first streets and close to what would be considered the eastern sections of the town. Again, most of this town is in gray zone. The Ukrainians sit back here in Perskakivka, push up into this housing area, and then fight the Russians sort of in this whole gray zone that is this town. We also have an advance up in the north. I think I talked about this in the last one, and I just haven't changed it to red yet. But with this advance and with this advance, the Ukrainian positions in this field become incredibly difficult. I'm just going to kind of do this just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So let's just say that this is captured. All right. And we'll make it a cool color, orange. All right. So if this gets captured, the Russians will position themselves on this high ground. Once these two, what I imagine are probably Ukrainian defensive fortifications, the Ukrainians like to use these little ring plantations. They're like little forest plantations in the middle. I think what they're supposed to be is reservoirs for water, like they're ponds. There's just not water in the satellite pictures. So for agriculture or whatever, you have a reservoir, a little pond on your property, and then what the Ukrainians do is they will use these as strong defensive points because they're natural hills, right? Not necessarily for elevation, but for defilade. Once the Russians captured these 2 points, which according to my map is less than a half mile and then less than 1 mile. So within this position is within rifle range. This position is within mortar range, obviously, and assault range, both of these. Once these fall, Novomykhailivka will fall, and then Pereskokivka and this northern Pabieta area will also likely fall. The Ukrainians, again, are fighting tooth and nail for every single inch of the map that we're looking at right now, and they don't appear like they're going to give up. So I think that what we are eventually going to see is just this general collapse when things get to the point where they cannot continue plugging holes. I thought for a while we might see a small pullback from the front lines, difficult decisions or whatever you want to call it. Smart decisions is what it should really be, getting back away from the line and then, reestablishing new defensive lines and then holding the Russians for as long as you can at those new defensive lines. Is that going to happen? It does not appear that way as the Ukrainians continue to fight for every inch. I just don't understand what their logic is. Again, it's purely political, so you have to look at that. But, I would say that defending Kramatorsk, defending Slavyansk, potentially defending Seversk is much more important than defending the outside of Avdiivka right here. I get the whole, if you back off, the Russians are going to attack in the area where you've backed off and you haven't created defensive lines, whatever, this, that, and the other. But the Ukrainians are losing this battle right now. They're still trying to fight. They're fighting headfirst into this attrition battle, which plays right into Russia's hands. And they're just not achieving what they need to achieve, whether that's like politically, they're not achieving it through what, talks, negotiations, not even negotiations with Russia, but funding negotiations and, a consensus on mobilization and all of this stuff. It doesn't seem like there's a clear cut plan, and things are just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as long as there isn't a plan. And things are going to get more and more desperate. I mean, that's really all I have to say. All right, I'm going to go over to my Twitter now and talk about some stuff on my Twitter. And then if you guys want to start asking questions, go ahead and ask questions. This isn't going to be a super long stream today just because there's not a lot to talk about. But I did want to talk about this. The head of Ukraine's intelligence agency, Budanov, is now a legitimate target for Russian armed forces. and that was reported by TASS. I said called it because 3 days ago I said that we should expect decapitation strikes now. I could just tell by the wording, the way they were talking about stuff, that this was coming. And this is the head of the FSB saying that I didn't actually report who said it, but it's the FSB director, Bortnikov. And so I'm just going to read some of the statements that he made yesterday in conjunction with the terror attack. FSB director Bortnikov said that radical Islamists conducted the terrorist attack in Moscow while Ukrainian special services facilitated it. Bortnikov calls for the SBU to be considered a terror organization. So this is very important. You have high-level Russian officials, Russian intelligence now saying that the Zelensky regime and Ukrainian intelligence, the SBU, should be considered a terror organization, right? He only says the SBU, but it's one and the same. There is not a differentiation between the SBU really and the Ukrainian government. They're so intertwined and act as the same entity. Whereas you could say like the Biden administration doesn't have full control over like the CIA. Like there's stuff that goes on in the CIA that Biden doesn't know about. I doubt there's much that's going on in the SBU that Zelensky doesn't know about right now. All right. Again, the director of the FSB says there will be retaliatory measures following the terrorist attack. And then he goes on further to say the US, Britain, and Ukraine are behind the terrorist attack in Caracas, are in the Caracas City Hall, or Corcus. Corcus. Again, sorry for my pronunciation. All right. So not a great sign for Ukraine. Again, we had Peskov using the term war. This was not a war for us. The West and Ukraine have made it a war for us. So it's not looking good. It looks like we're heading towards something that would resemble a CTO instead of a SMO now, or just a straight up war. That means infrastructure is now on the table all year round. Ukraine will probably not have power come late summer if the current trend continues. Again, this is I think that this is very beneficial for the Russian military objective. It's going to really, really complicate logistics at a time when logistics could potentially be the one thing keeping the Ukrainian military running. A CTO is a counterterrorism operation. So instead of special military operation, counterterrorism operation, and then upgrade of that would be a war. Crocus, right? As in the flower. Yes, probably. I'm sorry, guys. My pronunciations are not the strongest. If you guys have questions, though, go ahead and get them in. Why would Ukraine do it? What would they possibly gain? So this is something that I have my opinions on it. I'm not going to talk on my opinions because I don't think they're important. Russia's going to say whatever they're going to say. Ukraine is going to say whatever they're going to say. Everybody's going to use this event however they want to use it and to whatever gain they see fit. That's just how it's going to be. And there's not really a lot of, the truth doesn't particularly matter here. Even though we might think it's important, it's not. It doesn't make a difference to the overall outcome of what's going to happen. But what would Ukraine possibly, in a hypothetical situation where they did it, have to gain? It was supposed to happen on March 7th to March 9th. That was when the warning was issued by the U.S. State Department for U.S. citizens to stay away from large gatherings, particularly concert halls, which leads me to believe they knew exactly where this attack was going to happen. They had intelligence that this attack was going to happen. Usually with these things, the U.S. does not share its intelligence with Russia, only gives a general warning to its citizens and a generalized warning about what could possibly happen. The attack did not happen those 2 days. Later on, it did occur on the 22nd, I believe. It was right before my birthday. It was kind of rough. I was like, great, this is all anybody's going to be talking about. And I'm going to have to deal with dead kids and women for my birthday, which was not fun. But hey, it is what it is. I'm complaining, but they were the ones who suffered, so I'm not trying to complain. What could Ukraine possibly gain from it? For one, it happened at the exact same time the Belgorod operation happened. The creating the appearance of domestic instability and having no safety even in the heart of Moscow is a very, 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 very powerful message. And if you can do that utilizing a party who is traditionally known for these sort of attacks, they're ideologically driven. There is a underlying regional, racial, cultural battle, sort of not necessarily happening in Russia, but anytime you have different peoples, there are always going to be tensions, right? And sparking those tensions, especially with the Asian countries in the region. Ukraine has very, very, very good ties to the Caucasus. I'm pretty sure they have pretty good ties to Tajikistan, where this happened. I'm probably saying that wrong. I've never really heard a lot of these places actually pronounced out loud. I've only ever read them. So, and I don't focus on these areas at all. So you guys know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if I said it wrong. Ukraine could definitely gain from that instability. If something happened that either caused an overreaction that increased Western support or directly involved the West, that's a win. If it created some sort of instability in the country that Ukraine could have capitalized on, that's a win. There are definitely ways that Ukraine could have benefited from this. To say that they had nothing to benefit from this attack is just not true. Does that mean they did it? Absolutely not. Could it have just been a Ukrainian ISIS attack? Sure. Could it have been a false flag? Sure. It could have been anything, right? If anybody's giving you an absolute about what happened, they're lying. That's disingenuous. They don't know. The U.S., like I said, the U.S. coming out and saying it wasn't Ukraine. We know for sure it wasn't Ukraine when they're not even there in person to understand what happened. That is suspicious. That, again, very disingenuous to me that somebody would be talking like that. You just never know. ISIS is a bunch of very easily influenced. At least the people that are conducting these attacks are not usually the brightest. They're very easily influenced. They did this. They claim for money, very little money at that. I don't know. The whole thing is just it creates the plausible deniability if you need that, and it also is a good way to just create some general chaos. Man, the tensions, it's unbelievable. I actually was sent a post or an article talking about why Nuland was potentially removed from her position. If she was removed, some people just say she retired. Some people, she could just still be running the show and we just don't even know. But potentially one of the reasons she was removed is because she had lost her grip on Ukraine, lost her control over Ukraine, and Ukraine could potentially be working more in their own self-interests than in the interests of the United States, which which is corroborated with the fact that when Nuland went to Ukraine, this was in this article, Zelensky did not meet with her. Zelensky sent somebody to meet with her, which is not their normal back and forth. Not a good sign, right, when you're getting stood up. And then with the oil refinery strikes and stuff like that, there was a lot of upsetness in the United States because going into the election cycle, all of this is doing is raising oil and gas prices, which it absolutely is. So it doesn't help the West at all. It barely helps Ukraine. It doesn't particularly hurt Russia. So Ukraine is sort of doing their own thing, and they need to kind of get a reality check, I think, in the form of this support not going through. Question, how about the Baltimore Bridge? What about it? I don't think that there's any conspiracy, anything going on. I think it was a very poorly designed, it's a fine bridge, but when you're dealing with shipping going underneath it all of the time, I don't know. It looked like it collapsed basically out of nothing. Not saying it's designed to get rammed by a boat. I get that. A support pylon goes down, whatever. But I don't think it's anything. I think that the ship had some issues, crashed, and honestly, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. People are talking about shipping being completely and utterly disrupted. If there's money involved, guys, that part of that bridge is going to get yeeted out of there in no time. Trust me. If people are losing, like they say, $9 million a day or whatever out of that port, it will definitely get fixed very quick. Crumbling infrastructure, crumbling empire. Yeah, we don't spend a lot on our infrastructure, so red heifer. All right, go ahead and ask some questions, guys, if you have some questions. We're in the back stretch of this now. Questions. We need some news to start coming in soon. I think I've only made like 6 or 7 tweets today, which is pretty low for me, and I don't usually go that thin on my posting, but there's just not been much news. More explosions in Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkov. Ballistic weapons. Oh, explosions in Kharkov. Yeah, Kharkov is just getting battered. I think that you got one thing that I guess we can talk about is that the new who is your go-to Ukraine war mapper? Me, dog. What's up? You think I cheat on myself? I like well, Suryak is always very accurate and cautious with their mapping. Deep State I don't use anymore. The Sofa General on Telegram is a mapping source I use sometimes for updates. They have connections that I don't have, and they get news a little bit faster than I do sometimes. So sometimes I use them as one of my resources. Zelensky was seen in Sumy. RF going to make a move? I do believe so. They talked about the sanitary zone. That's exactly what I was just about to talk about. I think that we could very potentially be looking at a offensive coming up in late April, May, when the ground starts to get hard. It wasn't particularly a wet, muddy season, so I think it's going to happen early, which is not a good thing for Ukraine. The ground getting hard. And I really do think you're about to see the lines move dramatically. And whether it's the whole map just sort of bulging and moving a little bit at a time everywhere, or if it's an actual concentrated offensive. The Russians are hitting Kharkov so hard right now with glide bombs, with missiles. They've destroyed all of the infrastructure. That a lot of people have left Kharkov, not completely, obviously. There's still a lot of people in the area, but with the power out, there's just not a lot. And I mean, the power is out. The power generation has been hit. All of the most of the transformers in the region have been destroyed. The only way they're getting any power in is basically transferring it in from other regions. But other regions like Zaporozhye and some other areas have also had their infrastructure hit. So, but yeah, late April, early May, I think you're going to see a concerted Russian effort somewhere. I've always said it's going to be in the south, just with how I see them working on all of this. I think that this area is ripe for some large movements. Once they get behind the defense lines, there is no urban like Kramatorsk or Sloviansk or anything, Chasiv Yar, to slow them down. They'll just get back behind the line. If they get back behind the line, it's going to open wide up. So this is always one area I think that the Russians could push. Obviously, Chasiv Yar, I think they're going to turn that into a grinding battle. And then I honestly am now getting the feeling that a Kharkov operation could begin shortly. A Kharkov operation, in my personal opinion, is the best operation for the Russians to divide and conquer the Ukrainian army right now. If they are forced to reroute a bunch of ammunition up to Kharkov, because losing Kharkov is going to be really, really bad. If you lose Izium, and then Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, all of this is wasted if Kharkov gets taken. That's why it was such a big deal when the Ukrainians took it the first time, right? They pushed through, they got the Russians out of Izium, which would have allowed them to attack down towards Slavyansk. If the Russians can do something here, capturing Kharkov, or even just, surrounding it and moving around it, capturing Kupiansk in this area, I do really believe that the Ukrainian army will collapse. They don't have the manpower to defend a large push and fight a large battle up here while still fighting all of these other battles. Something is going to have to break. They haven't mobilized yet, so they're coming up against their manpower shortage issues. The artillery shells are still not coming in the way that they're being promised. Even the Czech shells, I don't think have even arrived. And even with that, I mean, the other day in Odessa, we heard an ammunition depot going off for about 30 minutes that probably had tens of thousands of artillery shells in it, if I had to guess. It was extremely loud. So, even with all of this ammunition that's supposedly coming in, it's kind of not, though, it's still not coming in any good time. Let's see. Chad Kirchbridge versus Baltimore. Yeah. Well, the Russians don't even need the Kirchbridge anymore, so I kind of hope it gets hit. I do think that it getting destroyed would not be the worst thing right now. It would be, an embarrassment, whatever. It's already happened twice, so I don't think anybody really gives a shit about that anymore. But again, it would just be like another excuse for Russia to continue doing whatever they want to do. So I do think that I honestly think the Ukrainians will try to hit the bridge. It doesn't matter. Remember, there is a rail connection now from Crimea to Russia. So the land bridge is complete. The whole purpose of the SMO is now in working order, and Crimea has now become a connected, basically they have a inland lake or an inland sea, the Sea of Azov, right, is their sea now. So that's what we're looking at. All right. Anybody has questions? What are your thoughts on NATO command post being hit in Chasiv Yar? There was a rumor. I didn't see a video of a hit. There was a report that a facility in Chasiv Yar, I think they claimed something in this area right here, which is very close to the front. I don't know if they would have that there, but there was a claim that a facility in this area was struck by the Russians, killed a bunch of individuals, NATO generals, this, that, and the other guys. I always say when it comes to claims like that, first off, we don't know. We'll probably never know until this stuff becomes declassified information, or we get stories from Ukrainians after the war leaking what ended up happening. But I don't think. I ignore all of those sort of reports. They're fun to think about possibilities of something happening. Like a whole bunker full of NATO advisors or whatever, or Ukrainian generals got hit. It's not impossible. It's not to say that it's not happening or it couldn't happen. I don't entertain those ideas because I can't prove them, and it doesn't really make a difference on the battlefield. It doesn't make a difference because I can't prove it, is what I'm trying to say. Can you post your Twitter link? My God, bro. Yeah, I guess. I always forget how to do this. How do I share my profile? Let's just do this. I'll just copy this link right here. Boom. Done. I'll post it in the chat. Go follow me on Twitter, dork. Our decision-making center is being hit. I don't know. We will tell, or we will see in a little while. I imagine the next strike will be something more significant in terms of what's being hit. Strike days take a long time to prepare. So all of the strikes you're seeing right now are not retaliations for anything. They're just all planned strikes, unless there's something that happened a couple months ago that they're retaliating for. What kind of dog you got? Coonhound? No, I have a Great Dane. Hold on. Let me go get him. Oi! Hey! Come here. Cuz my stream wants to see him. Sorry, he was hanging out with my girlfriend. Come here, Hades. Come here, buddy. There he is. I love showing him off. Come here. Whoa, he's huge. He's a monster. All right, go. All right, go. No, he's a Great Dane. He's awesome. How long do you think it's out for until the Russians rebuild it? There is no, the Ukrainians have no possibility of repairing that major infrastructure like that during this war. They don't have the money for it. They don't have the time for it. It's never going to get repaired if it remains Ukrainian until after the SMO, for sure. Maybe we'll see 50 bombers in the air instead of the average 10 to 14. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that there are many more targets than, firing more than 100 missiles. I don't think that there's a lot of targets in Ukraine. I mean, unless you're taking out bridges or I don't know. That's a concerted. You're wasting a lot of missiles at that point, just because you don't have like an accurate damage assessment after the first volley of missiles. How do you know what you need to hit unless you just have a whole list of targets? But you should be taking those out over time consistently, like the Russians, I believe, have been doing. So there's not really a need for 50 bombers at a time. Yeah, Kharkov is definitely SOL'd. Calibrated, is your girlfriend real or just another product of your imagination? Oi! Come here! Yeah, you! I won't show her because the internet sucks. And I would love to show you guys her face, but I don't want her being harassed because of my political opinions. Say hi to everybody. Hold on, let me bring the mic over. Say hi to everybody and tell them that you're not a figment of my imagination.
I am definitely a figment of your imagination.
No, she's not. I promise.
I'm not a real person.
She is a real person. I promise. So, yeah. Guys, I have a little bit of Riz. Come on. You hear how I talk shit? All right. Yes, that is a Great Dane. He is my mascot. He is my boy, my baby boy.
He likes me more, though.
He does love her way more than he loves me. That is true. All right, guys. Thank you so much. His name is Hades. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys. I'll try to do one tomorrow. I just need more news, honestly, to actually give you guys a good product. So what type he is? What do you mean? Are you American or European? I believe that he's an American Great Dane. What did you just did what he wanted you to do? Huh? All right. Bye, guys. Take care. I love you all. Be safe.